Hello, everybody. I am joined by three friends, close friends, and also poker players. We've got a TV host and presenter to talk a little bit about the World Poker Tour World Championship, which is coming up in December. The inaugural event happened last year, and it was a ridiculous success. It was actually my first ever WPT. It was my first event as like a PokerOrg person. And I will just say, so I first want to just get a sense from you guys about your experience. I will say for me, I had never been to a WPT and I was just like, is this what I've been missing for the last like 15 years of my life? Because the vibe, the energy was so crazy positive. There's just a lot of, negativity in general. A lot of people are losing a lot of money at poker tournaments, and from just the brass all the way down, the vibe was fire, in my opinion. Let's start, Andrew, as someone who is a professional tournament poker player, to tell me about what your sense kind of this tournament was or what it felt like for you.
Yeah, I mean, geez, I tell people all the time. I mean, and obviously it's the win. That's the first thing. But I've been doing tournament poker for around 15 years, at least from the start, and I've traveled all over the world following Christy, who was at Card Player and then Poker News. So I would just travel stops with her, and I'd play EPTs, APTs, like WSOP Europes, all these different brands all over the place, and I've played so many over the last, 15 years, and that to me was the best event I'd ever been to of any of the events. And it's a lot of the little details, like when you get into these, if you've ever been to a World Series of Poker, at the Rio or even at the new place, it's just like it's a lot of like chaos. People are squished together. Things just seem to take longer than they're supposed to. You go into the bathrooms and you're just like afraid to touch anything. You're like, what can we eat? And you're just like, well, whatever, like a pretzel with cheese or something. But I mean, obviously, like you pay a little bit for it at the Wynn, but the experience, just you walk in, you just feel comfortable. To me, it was that, and then the record-breaking fields, obviously, like so many people having big success. So yeah, top to bottom, I was blown away.
So speaking of big success, both Brad and Lynn had some pretty solid scores. And for you, Lynn, this was a career best. So I wanted to touch on a little bit, both your just since you've obviously been to a lot of WPTs, about this one, why this one, if you think it felt kind of original, why, and, a little bit about your unique experience also playing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to acknowledge what Andrew just said. I just think your description was just so spot on about how special this event truly is. Wynn Las Vegas is just an extraordinary property. They do this incredible job at making every single visitor feel like a VIP. You feel like you are somewhere that is really elegant and special, and you fit right in, like they just make everyone feel so welcome. They somehow merge quality and elegance and this like bougie vibe with zero like arrogance or anything. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they have this wonderful humble combination with all of this extravagance. They've just nailed it. So I just adore Wynn, and everything that came together for this event was it was electric was the word that we just kept using. That's how it felt in that room. It was electric every single day. It started with the meetup game, which was just like unbelievable, and then just every single day there was something else, and it just kept booming and delivering a smile and satisfaction to every single player. And like Andrew was saying, traveling around the world constantly, I've seen so many events. I've been to so many, and so many events are spectacular, but there's always something that a poker player is going to find to complain about at some point. This was the first time I think in my life that I have never heard a single complaint. That every table I sat at, everyone's smiling. Everyone's like, this is amazing. Oh my God, this is the best day of my life. It was really something special. So the whole month in Vegas, I just was ecstatic. I was enjoying everything about it. Every event that we had, the feeling of going into the tables, every dinner I had, the rooms, and then all of the events that we had outside of the poker tournament. We had parties and we had functions, and there was just so much going on. I just had the best time of my life. And then to play the main event was such a win for me, to just to be able to play, like to top off this experience and then jump into a $10,000 buy-in main event. I was so grateful and stoked. And I just thought, if I can bag day one and just have that sensation of bagging a major event like this, that would be a huge win for me. And then I bagged day two, and then I bagged day three. And I was just blown away by the feeling of what is happening. I just felt like I was in a dream, and the whole experience. So I can hear Bodhi crying outside my door. So I'm distracted, but it's okay. He's in good hands. Yeah. So when I just experiencing that was unbelievable, and I to then look at the tournament clock for multiple days on end, seeing $4.1 million as a first place prize, it was actually within my reach all of a sudden. Brad, wasn't that wild? Like, okay, now we're in the money. All right, now there's only a couple hundred left. There's only 100 left. It's so important, I think, for me as well, after being in poker for so long and being at moments like this for so many poker players, to now experience it for myself, what it truly, truly feels like to just be deep, deep, deep on day 4, looking at that clock. I ended up finishing 91st. It was incredible. It was just a mind-blowing roller coaster. I was so grateful. And then afterwards, about an hour later, once it sunk in that I had busted and I'd been on this ride of my life, I think I was actually at lunch with your brother, Andrew, and then I just started crying at the table. I was like, I gotta go. I was so upset because I just had this huge, adrenaline drop, I guess, then it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It's amazing. I have so much credit for poker players who do this for a living and ride that roller coaster of emotions and be able to just maintain the highs and the lows and be able to keep yourself, up throughout it. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And so, yeah.
But you must have pulled it together, because at the final table, I'm pretty sure when I was watching some of the footage, you can see you in the background, like working, doing some kind of like standing up thing. I'm like, she went, she played, she ran deep, and then she clearly just put her sequins on and was like ready to go do the rest of the job. And so Lynn, you cashed 91st, and Brad, you cashed 35th. And I also would argue, as someone in the poker media, we ran really well at this tournament series, in that you never know who's going to go deep. It could be anybody, and God bless them. Sometimes it's a bunch of people that we don't know, and I'm happy for them, on the inside, but it doesn't create a lot of super fascinating storylines a lot of the time. This tournament, as it got smaller and smaller and the field got smaller and smaller, there were so many big names, both creators, professional poker players, just fun, interesting people to watch play. And obviously, Brad, you were one. And obviously, both of you are connected to the WPT. So I'm sure they were just like eating this up. There was so much run good. But tell me, for you, Brad, and coming into things now as, someone who is a card room owner who puts on, tournament series yourself, how was it as a poker player to go deep? How was it as someone who has a different hand in the industry also now, to see the seamlessness of this tournament series?
Yeah, everybody just did such an amazing job between WPT and the Wynn for this to run really without a hitch. There was a little bit of talk about, not getting seats right away on day ones if you registered late. But that's like a great problem for the Wynn to have when they're putting up $15 million guarantee and we nearly double it. But other than that, there were people, all the top pros kind of tweeted about how much they love the event, how much they love the Wynn, including people, like Daniel Negreanu, who has no affiliation with WPT at all. So to get the big name guys to talk about how much they appreciated the event, who have decades of tournament experience, that was pretty cool. running deep in the event was awesome for me. That was my biggest score at the time. And I've really just been a cash game player for the majority of my poker career. So I had signed with WPT maybe 7 months prior, and really hadn't had any big 6-figure scores. So I came into day 5, 8th in chips with 37 left, and I think we just needed to bust 5 people before we make a pay jump from 99,000 to 117,000. So I was like, all right, we've got like this first 6-figure score locked up. And then 15 minutes into day 5, I get it in with kings against ace king and bust. So that was like heartbreaking for me. But it was just such an amazing experience, especially for the whole WPT team. Obviously, we talked about Lynn running deep, Andrew Nemi cashing it as well, and then Tony Dunst. He was the stone bubble.
Yeah.
And then someone else ended up busting the same hand. We went hand for hand for a long time. So they ended up chopping, the last a min cash, which was pretty cool. But everything from start to finish was amazing. We had the premier meetup game to kick it off. Doyle Brunson, Phil Ivey, the whole WPT team, Patrick Antonius, Steve Aoki, all of us were there. And to have the opportunity to play with Doyle, in the last few months of his life playing low stakes, that was such an incredible thing for so many people. So grateful to have that memory with him.
So we are going to talk just a small amount of poker, and since you teed it up right there for me, Brad, with the aces into ace king, just kidding, kings into ace king story, we have a couple hands we were going to look at, which seem to be some of the sort of standout hands from the final table. And I don't know, maybe I should make sure. Andrew, did you watch the hands at all?
I know that I've watched the hands when they happened. I definitely remember the hand with the big hand with Benny where he was all in against
Yes.
kings. The other one I would remember with just a little bit of detail probably. But.
Okay, sweet. So I was going to ask you about, so this first one, Benny shoves ace jack into kings, and the commentators are sort of saying, you as a spectator, when you're listening to the commentators, you just take everything that they say for the most part as probably like the word of God. They're basically saying he's shoving ace jack here in this spot, never thinking he's getting called by better. Like 3% of the time he's getting called by better, and probably he was just had a plan sort of for how to come in as the chip leader. Bullying the table was probably part of that plan, and this really changed the plan for him and really shifted things. As a high stakes professional poker player, I was curious what your thoughts are. Do you think Benny saw this as a mistake, or just like a sort of inevitability in poker? Like sometimes they're just going to wake up with a much better hand in a shitty spot.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about poker is that a lot of people are going to have different opinions about a lot of different things. And I would say even in a lot of the high stakes guys that I've talked to, even it seems like, you could kind of go either way with, some of basically the way the ICM, I know it's kind of like a hot button word, but it's such an intricate thing that, it's true. Like that guy was only probably going to call with like 3% of the hands he was dealt. So like you could just point to that and say like, how unlucky is that? There definitely is like another kind of school of thought where, just doing like kind of the standard raise, and not taking this kind of like computer generated strategy would have probably worked out better against like real human beings playing real poker for life changing amounts of money. Cause if I'm this Elliot Houdon guy and, Benny opens instead of shoves, like I'm still like, even if I think I know what the strategy is that I should be doing and bluffing all these hands, I'm playing for $4 million and I'm just sitting in second place and I'm probably going to overfold, So I think the kind of human aspect, you could really point and say, yeah, maybe don't go for the shove. I actually saw Benny at a party down at the Bahamas this year and was chatting with him about it. And it seems like, or basically what I was talking to him about it that I was most interested in when I saw it happen, I was immediately interested was, okay, cool. Now we're going to get to see who this Benny Glazer guy is because I think that really says a lot about what kind of professional he is, because, you know, obviously we can imagine as poker players, like his world is probably tumbling on the inside after like the guy says call, they ship the pot, you know, they're playing for insane money. And like now he all of a sudden he could be like the next one out potentially. Who knows? Like obviously he still was in a reasonable spot. But you know, I was really interested to see how he would respond to the adversity and watch like in detail how he played. And I thought he responded quite well, and it was cool to see.
Of course, he ends up heads up because Benny's a boss, and Andrew's a boss because he like sees it and is like, "All right, Benny, let's see what you've got." Like, of course, you pick it up and just pull out like such a juicy gem. Well, I do want to talk about the final hand, but mostly I need to have it all written out so that Andrew also you can give me the juicy goss. Brad, did you watch the final hand?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so maybe you can like explain it in, you know, the best poker player way so Andrew can get it. But the sort of the question more or less is Benny seems extremely salty, or mostly maybe surprised, not sure, like wondering how that was what he had and what was kind of going on in the end, or at least that's what his face reads like. Do you read it like that? And does it kind of make sense that he was pretty surprised that this was the hand that Elliot had?
I think that he was more just in shock that, you know, he came into it being a massive chip leader, and then it ends after he, I believe, let's see, did he check raise? Or did he raised on the turn, and then Elliot calls, and then just drills the second nuts, and then Benny bluff shoves into him. So I think that he was just kind of surprised that, you know, he got there after he check raised, and then he bluff shoved, and that's how it abruptly ended for him. I didn't necessarily think that he was surprised by Elliot's play so much, but just that, you know, it's all over in an instant.
Yeah, that's an interesting part of the whole thing. Even I think you touched on that, Lynn, right? It's like there's so much anticipation and there's so much sweat, and especially something like this that just goes days and days and days, and then in an instant, in a card, in a moment, it's all over. And yeah,
It,
and
it
there's so much hype, and yeah,
it's tough because, you know, all of a sudden now there's two kind of controversial hands where Benny can second guess himself on, and you're so close. You know, you make it through almost 3,000 players, and then and you're kind of expected to win. You're the most seasoned veteran, and then yeah, you have these two hands, and then it's done, and you still have to. You're on TV. It's a final table. You're on stream. You kind of have to be composed, but like internally, you're just so close. And then you know all your dreams are done. But obviously Benny's rebounded. He's such a good player. What does he have, like 6 gold bracelets or something like that? You know, he's not hurting too bad.
yeah, he'll be. I think Benny will be okay. He's paying the bills. Like he's gonna
And
survive.
I'm pretty sure his $2 million consolation prize or whatever second place was also felt pretty good.
Yes. It's like more than first in almost every other tournament. But it's interesting because this is actually something I've touched on with Lynn, you know, privately asking her about her experience. And I'm sure, Brad, you have the same thing. It's interesting also for people, say, who are creators or faces in the game, where you're going to be, you know, you mentioned it's on TV, right? Like you're going to be on the stream, you're going to be on the TV tables a lot, you're going to be chosen to be sort of the stars of the show. And yet you're also playing for $4 million, $2 million, whatever. Presumably you're playing for lots of money, which could also be life-changing. And this puts you in an interesting spot. Do you, when you're playing, feel that pressure sometimes, Brad, especially as you're associated with the WPT, that you need to be charming and interesting and not make mistakes because you're, you know, a brand ambassador?
Yeah, in some ways I feel a little bit of extra pressure, but I'm just so thankful to have the deal with WPT and be a part of that. Lynn and Vince and Tony were all extremely welcoming right away, which was great. And I, anytime I'm like a little bit upset or whatever, I just kind of remind myself how lucky I am to be in the position that I'm in this industry. And you know, occasionally if that means that I have to kind of hold in some of my some of my thoughts when I bust out or whatever. I mean, that's part of being a pro anyway. It's like you just kind of take things in stride and don't let things get to you too much. There's always more tournaments to play, but I'm also ultra competitive, which is, how I've gotten to the point in poker and in YouTube that I'm in. So yeah, I always want to win, but I don't know.
I think it's funny for you though too, Lynn. I was thinking as the days were going on and you kept bagging, I kept thinking how much added pressure would be on you. Of course, you have to be fun and entertaining and beautiful, but also that because you're not a professional poker player, that when you're on the stream, that you're feeling extra judged for every poker decision that you're making and knowing that everybody's seeing everything that you're doing. Did you
Oh.
feel more sweat in some ways being
Yeah.
trying to prove yourself or something?
I tried to stay out of the trap of trying to prove myself. I'm like, look, I don't put out there that I'm a professional player at any means. So the world was as surprised as I was that I was going this deep. So I kept reminding myself that when I was like, don't look like an idiot. But wow, it's such a vulnerable feeling when all your whole cards are being shown. I can play tight and make really bad folds and really bad decisions where no one knows about it, but suddenly now they can see everything, and I just felt so exposed. And but yeah, even on top of that, like, there was just so much internal conversation going on with myself when I'm at the table, because as a host on the WPT, my job is like to host people and like to be the anchor, but then I'm playing for $4 million. So I kept going back and forth, like, should I be chatting more to the players? No. We're playing for $4 million. Stop chatting.
I was trying to buy a house. Like, leave me alone, everybody.
I was so confused by my role in those 2 hours being on the stream. Like, what should I be doing here? Just focus on the game. And then I just kept going back and forth. And it was cool also to have the experience of being able to play with Elliot on day 2. I was playing with Elliot. It was at the end of day 2, the last 2 levels on the stream. And then to go and see him win, it also just helps, like, as well, just seeing the kind of the journey, like, wow, while we were playing, he had no idea he was going to win this thing, and then that could be any of us. It's so incredible that in just a matter of a few hands and a couple of days, your life can absolutely just can change in the most incredible way. This game is extraordinary.
True.
Yeah.
Lynn sometimes is like, maybe Angel will bank a tournament and then we'll buy a house. And I'm like, gosh, there's definitely some bonuses to, having a poker player as your significant other. Because maybe just one tournament, you could just buy a really nice house afterwards.
That's what I love when you talk to anyone outside of poker. Yeah. I remember years ago talking to a mortgage broker, and I was like, so yeah, but if we were to just win the money, and he's like, you can't look at it that way. And I was like, yes, I can.
But I am. I'm not like playing the lottery, but
Amo, you won that one for 1.4 million at the Wynn or whatever. Did you make any big purchases after that one?
I made the most adult purchase of my life, which was I, for whatever reason, wanted to buy really nice plates and silverware and cups.
They are really nice, by the way. They are really nice.
So I spent like a silly amount of money on just that. And that's the 40-year-old version of myself. So
gosh, I just love the 40-year-old version of you. And that just tees it up like as easy as we ever could. Outside of the fact that I don't think we've mentioned that it is Lynn Gilmartin's birthday. She's not 40, but my birthday is the same day as hers, and I will be 40. So everyone just eat it up. But that's not actually the number 40 that I was moving to. We're looking at a $40 million guarantee, which is totally crazy. And I think even Adam Pliska has said there's a big chance of an overlay, and that's fine. Like, we've obviously considered that risk is there, and we're fully committed to this guarantee. And of course, as a poker community, that's what we want to hear. We want to know that we can trust these sort of guarantees. And I'm curious, Andrew, as someone who's a professional poker player, how much do things like that affect how you're choosing which tournaments you're going to play and where you're going to go? If they didn't have a guarantee like that, you'd probably still come to the championships, right? Yeah, but it makes a difference.
Yeah, I think standing behind the guarantee like that, even knowing that there's the chance for it beforehand, kind of reassuring people is like such a great sign for an operator to show to the community. And I think even people in poker, we don't like, there's a part of you that's like, yeah, you like, I'll go there, and then if there's an overlay, cool, like that means I make more money. But I think most people in poker are to the point now kind of realize like that's not good for everyone when these operators are missing their guarantees. So you know yeah, I think everyone's kind of rooting for them to make it in the community. All the players definitely want to see this thing be a success, because we recognize that if these things like don't work out, these guarantees start missing, that puts this like thing that we've all really hoping to have happen every year in jeopardy. So yeah, I think it's a good move. And I honestly, like, I'm hopeful. I think the community too. Like, I think people are gonna, I guarantee there's going to be a crazy amount of people flying in at the last minute to like try to play this thing and like FOMOing so hard. So I'm just going to do it at the beginning rather than at the end.
I'm just going to jump right in, and then we have no FOMO from AMO. Yeah, I think that's interesting, and it would require around 4,000 people, right, to meet the guarantee. And it seemed to me like everyone who was anyone was there. I shouldn't say it like that, but let's just say it seemed like there was a lot of people there last year, and it was slightly less than 30K,
29
which crushed
million.
the 29 million. K, just throw around K's now like it's nothing, but 29 million from what was a $15 million guarantee. So obviously that was not an issue. Now we're just like kicking it up. Do you think, since Lynn is the numbers girl here, million instead of K, do you think 4,000 players is realistic? I shouldn't say realistic. Possible? What's your guess?
Yeah.
What do you think the number will be?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually haven't thought of what my number is, but I am very optimistic that we are going to attract the 4,000 entries at least. I mean, they're adding in another 72 tables we have this year compared to last year. So we've got a lot of extra space. And even though there were so many players there last year, there were so many that missed out and deeply regretted it once they saw the explosion on social media of just the absolute party that it was. There was a lot of regret after. So I'm looking forward to seeing just every single poker player in the world at Wynn in December.
Brad, what's your number?
I'll go with 4,500. I think that seems pretty good. There were so
Way
many people.
over.
Yeah, there were so many people last year that had a great time, and a lot of people that had FOMO, and just the way that WPT and the Wynn tried to make it extra special with book signings from Doyle. There was the golf simulation thing with Ivy, and really looking after the people who won through Club WPT and through all the kind of ancillary ways to win, these 12K packages that include travel plus the buy-in, was just awesome. So they had like this special room where you could play games and get food and get drinks for all the Club WPT members, and we were all in there every day. Yeah. And interacting with them. Yeah. There was the giant party at Area 15 as well last year. So it was just a blast. And I think people saw that who were, maybe on the fence, but didn't go last year. I think all those people are definitely going to go this year. I think there's an extra day one as well. Is that right?
It's long this year, I feel like, and it must be several day ones.
Yeah.
I checked because I think I went for like 7 days last year, and this year it was like 9 or 10.
Yeah, also, to expand on what Brad was saying, I think there's about 1,000 qualifiers from all around the world, at least, coming, because there's been a really intensive
Andrew
funnel
heard
program.
that.
Yeah, Andrew's like, all right, I'm going fishing.
It is kind of just like pouring fuel on the fire, where last year was amazing. A bunch of people won their way in. The tables were, soft for a 10K. A lot of 10Ks in Vegas are not soft. They're very difficult fields. So to put a $40 million guarantee on it, there just aren't enough good poker players on the planet to reach that $40 million guarantee. So that makes it fun for all the more recreational type players to take their shot. I mean, it's definitely really the tournament of the year to take your shot in a 10K.
Mm-hmm. If I can
I was
do
going to
it.
go another direction, but now that you said tournament of the year, I feel like we got to steer it this way then. Let's talk about, there's another poker tournament, which is also going to be going on with a small amount of overlap, which is causing a lot of chatter amongst players and people alike.
You're talking about the Lodge $400 buy-in.
Exactly.
Oh, that's the one.
Yes. Everyone's
I'm going
flying
to fly
out.
back and forth for that. For the Lodge 4. Yeah.
The WSOP is also going to be hosting a tournament in the Bahamas. And it's interesting because actually during the event last year, I think there was a lot of talk about how this was comparing in some ways to the World Series of Poker main event. These were $10,000 buy-ins, gigantic fields, main events, and it's now we also have another WSOP event, which is actually just going to be like scheduled at the same time. And PokerOrg did a poll amongst our player advisory board and to see where people were intending to go. And from our advisory board, which is both European and American, I don't think there's any Aussies actually at this point. I might be wrong, but 11 said they intended to go to the World Championships for the World Poker Tour. 4 said EPT Prague, 2 to the Bahamas in Paradise, and 1 is going to be going to the APT in Hanoi, the Hanoi Millions. But I'm curious, as other people in the poker scene, poker community, do you think this type of thing, like, is this competition between tournament series providers, is this good for poker, bad for poker? Is it healthy? What's going on? I'll go to Andrew because he has more likelihood to be just less biased.
So from my perspective as the player, someone who travels to a lot of these stops, I think I would really like to see big operators work together and kind of, not have this sort of thing happen where they're going to kind of splinter people and make them decide. It seems like there's enough time outside of the World Series to like do something else like this from the outside. That said, I understand like how business works, and they don't really, they're focused on making money. That's like kind of the WSOP's thing, which is my big gripe against them, is that you kind of feel it when you go there. It's like the player doesn't really feel like they have a lot of, I don't know, say or rights. They're just kind of there because like they have the big brand, and they kind of do what they want. I think the WPT definitely exceeds in that way, which is why, given the choice, like I would go to the WPT. But also, I think beyond that, just specifically the logistics, I don't know how many people are planning on going to the Bahamas, but if they have never been, I think they'll be in for a surprise. First of all, like if you live anywhere that's not, on the East Coast of the United States, it's kind of a trek to get to. It's kind of hard. There's a lot of concerns going in and out of the country in terms of like, how are you going to get your money in and out? And there's been well-documented cases of things not going well. You're on an island where, it's quite expensive, and it's, yeah, I could say a lot of things about the Bahamas that are, not great, but it's the Bahamas, like I'm sure that it'll be a great event. I would just, I love the ease of Vegas. And I think people, if they've never been to the Bahamas and they go to play, I think that most of them, I would be surprised if they didn't regret it. Let's just say that.
You make a really good point that I think a lot of people I've been to quite a few events in the Bahamas as well, and I've seen a lot of issues with the money. How do you get the money there? How do you get the money home? Transfers not coming through, having issues at customs. Like, this is just a logistical nightmare, I think, for an industry that requires a lot of cash flow to be accessible and available. And yeah, it is like a real problem. The Bahamas is beautiful though. All of us, I'm sure, have been and done some diving, hung out on the beach, had a few pina coladas, a few Mai Tais. The consensus, I have to guess, between Brad and Lynn. Brad, do you think this is going to shake out that everyone's probably going to end up at the Wynn?
I think the vast majority of people will end up at the Wynn. Just such a prestigious event, and we've talked about this kind of over and over. You just can't beat the Wynn. So while there are, it's nice the idea of having warm weather in December and playing poker, I get the allure of that, but really I feel like it's just going to attract some of the bracelet hunter type people, the Phil Hellmuths, the Negranus. And it's a little bit disappointing because I feel like that's just, they're trying to like cheapen the value of a bracelet almost intentionally. It feels like with these online events nonstop. And I don't want to say anything bad about WSOP because I grew up and started really like watching poker on television through WSOP. So I have a ton of respect for the brand as a whole, and I really want to see it do well. But seeing this kind of stuff is a bit frustrating. It does potentially take away people from the WPT, and if the WPT doesn't hit the 40 million because this other thing is going on, that's a bit disappointing. Because I think it's great for poker if we do hit the $40 million guarantee. And there's nothing really going on in January as far as I know. So it just seems like WSOP could have picked a slightly different time where players don't have to pick between kind of multiple big tours.
And there is a boom. There's a lot. It feels like it's such a good time for poker in general, and that there is right now enough for everybody. It feels like that, at least to me from the outside. And, I think one of the things that I was really surprised about, of course, the Wynn Hotel is amazing. Of course, I think the WPT put on a great show. One of the things that I was surprised after living in Vegas for 10 years was how great it felt to be in Vegas at Christmas time. First, there was all these lights everywhere, and there was little things, to kind of see and do that were very, it's definitely a place for vacationers. It's set up for vacationers, and there was a lot of stuff. And I know, even when I got there, Lynn, you were telling me that you were going to take Bodhi to this little snow fest thing, and Christy and Andrew were going. And yeah, I just feel like the vibe felt really cool and Christmassy somehow. Chanukah-y too, if that's your scene. But one of the other things which you guys both have touched on, especially Lynn and Brad, is some of the side things that went on. There was people speaking. There was these cool places to go and visit, these great parties. Lynn, can you give me a little taste of some of the things I might get to do and look forward to this time?
Oh, I can only give you a teeny tiny teaser. There is a schedule that's getting put together, but it isn't finalized. So I can't tell you what's going on. But yes, that was a huge feature of last year. The motto of the festival last year was "Thank you, players." It was a big thank you, like just a giving back to the community beyond the guarantees and beyond the experience at the table, but also stuff off the felt. So something that is confirmed is that we are going to have our thank you players party at Area 15 again, which was poker parties. I've been to quite a few poker parties in the past, and they're not always that incredible. This was unreal. It was such a cool party. Area 15, if you've never been there, is really a centric place. It's out of this world, which is kind of the goal for what they've set up there, and it's just something that you've never really experienced before, I'm sure. So if you missed the party last year, you definitely need to join us at that party this year. But there'll be some other little things going on as well, but to be confirmed.
Yeah, it was like all of a sudden I was in the media room and they were like, "Oh, Molly Bloom's here. She's going to be just speaking. And do you want to like sit next to her at the fireplace?" I was like, "What? Yes, I do. I want to do that. That sounds great." But that was one of the cool things, was that it was a lot of things that were done not because, hey, look at this huge hype, everyone should come because we're going to do all of these amazing things and check all these boxes. But when we were there, just little things started happening that it seemed like they weren't there to bring people there. They were there to just enjoy from the people who were there already. And that was lovely. There was lots of lovely things to do and see, and lots of events. Andrew, not that I think you're, like making your schedule in advance, but I do know some of the things that we've talked about in terms of, if people are just going to like go to the Bahamas and then get a flight and try to get to the end of things at the Wynn. There's a lot of tournaments actually though going on at the Wynn. And I think there's a lot of events that a lot of people will want to jump into. There's $1 million event, which I'm sure Andrew, you're planning on. Yeah, I'm sure you're planning on playing, right? So that's like first thing on your schedule.
No, but I heard that Rampage might be playing, and if he does, I'm definitely going to buy a piece.
He does. I am in. So yeah, there's $1 million event, which actually I would argue in terms of all of the hype and all the things that were going on last year, probably $1 million event was maybe the only thing that didn't get done or didn't happen. I think there was a 250K, but this is a whole different ball of wax. It's a whole different, obviously there's a whole milieu of sort of businessmen that traditionally play this kind of thing. There's a certain, maybe 15 poker players that play these things on the reg. What do you guys think? What are the expectations, I guess, internally from the WPT at this point in terms of numbers? And like, this is a whole job to arrange these type of people and their schedules and things to get them to come to events like this. What are you hearing, Brad? What's the juicy goss on the streets about who's coming and how many people we can expect to buy into $1 million tournament?
I wish I had a great answer for you. That's kind of one of the things that I like about WPT is that we're willing to take these big risks and put on these big events, put out a $15 million guarantee, put out a $40 million guarantee, and not 100% know, what the outcome is going to be. But we kind of have that, if you build it, he will come kind of mentality, I suppose, where we're just going to try to put on the absolute best events we can put on. And, hopefully the players will show up. So the $1 million guarantee, I'm sure there's $1 million buy-in. I'm sure there's a lot more people within WPT who kind of have a better estimate of how many will show up for that. But I know Ivy's playing for sure. I'm not exactly sure who else is signed up or registered at this point, but that is going to be something that I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to play my first 25K this year, my first live 25K. So really excited for that. And then there's just so many other things on the schedule. The Prime event, the $1,100 one as well. The championship for that is going to be really cool. I think Steven Song won that last year. So,
and there's a ladies event too.
The ladies, Lynn's going to be playing.
Yeah, $1,100 buy-in ladies event. That was huge last year. Over 500 players. We had the biggest guarantee that we've ever had for a ladies event in the world. Ladies events don't usually have guarantees attached. So we've got a $250,000 guarantee on that one. And then we always have so much going on as well for the ladies around the ladies event. So Jamie Kerstetter is putting together her meetup game. Again, a ladies mimosa meetup game, nice and early in the morning. We're also doing a viewing, having a viewing party of the ladies championship last year because that one was televised. So we'll have, a bit of a little viewing party for that too. So there's a lot of all the little extra bells and whistles all around it. But the ladies event are always so fun. I can't wait to play that.
That is amazing. 500? Yeah. That's, I don't think I've ever.
It was almost 600. I think it was I can't remember the exact number. It was 500 and something, close to 6. And I couldn't play though because I was deep in the main.
Sick brag. Thank you for that also. Do you know what Andrew, at poker players, but you're like a businessman also. So do you have any idea what kind of things you're planning on playing?
I try to take these big series as a little differently now as a father. So basically, if I'm not feeling like playing, even if it's a good event, because poker's an emotional game. I think sometimes we might save a few buy-ins if we just didn't register a tournament and we kind of know beforehand. I think when you have I have a young son, so it makes it all more easy. So I basically just take it as it comes. I'll really try to play all the high value stuff like big field. But probably play the 25K and no $1 million buy-in, as I said. But if any of the WPT ambassadors, the Brad Owens, or the Rampages, whoever, I will buy a piece. I'm not gonna buy like a huge piece, but I just want to have a sweat, So when the epic storyline comes out, I can just feel like I've been a part of it. So yeah, that's my plan.
I'll be sweating you. We'll all be sweating you, Andrew, while you're getting ready to ship however much it will be, $10 million. It's going to be crazy. Like, this game is so crazy how things have just continued to shift and evolve, and things that seem totally out of this world to me, 10 years ago are just totally standard, normal operating procedure at this point. Well, I have been on maternity leave. This also will be my first stop back on the grind. I am so glad that it will be a stop like this in a hotel that is so glorious, with so many other people who are going to be there with their babies, with their youngins. We can all swap nannies, hopefully. And I see actually on my outline that I should have introduced everyone. To me, I've just had to assume that everyone will know who everyone is. But just in case you didn't know, we have the lovely Miss Lynn Gilmartin, who is a World Poker Tour anchor. She is an actress, a TV presenter, one of my very closest friends, my soulmate in birthday world. We have Brad Owen. I'm sorry it's not going to be as juicy, but who is a content creator, a poker player, co-owner. I guess we call you co-owner. Do I just say like owner of a card room, The Lodge, here in Round Rock, right around the corner from me, and in the same home as Andrew Moreno, Andrew Amo Faux Show. For some reason, it doesn't say Amo is your nickname on Hendon Mob, and I was just like, how did they miss that? But Andrew Moreno, professional poker player, wonderful father, wonderful human being, just like one of the people I love most in this world. So there, in case you didn't know, now everyone knows. Now everyone's been introduced. Now that you've heard all the opinions. Before I let you guys go, is there anything else that we should know as the audience getting ready to come to this event?
We do. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lynn.
I was just going to say, strap in for the experience of a lifetime. For real.
Get ready.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I just want to plug that premier meetup game December 1st this year with our whole WPT family, and Ivy will be there again this year. A lot of other kind of guest stars. So to have that opportunity to play small stakes with Ivy happens once a year pretty much. So hopefully people will come out for that, and then we'll have an after party as well where we can just hang out and have drinks if anyone wants to come out who doesn't necessarily want to even play poker.
So we're talking Lynn Gilmartin will be there, Tony Dunst, Brad Owen, Andrew Nemi, Phil Ivey.
Angel
You got
Guillen.
anyone else you want to throw in there? Angel Guillen, Dreamboat.
Vince Van Patten, I think Vince should be there too.
Yeah. Vince, Ivy, and then those are the confirmed ones. I think there's going to be a handful of other kind of content creators and special guests that aren't
maybe
necessarily
Andrew Moreno, if you guys.
If Angel Guillen's going to be there, I might just have to come. But
right?
I was unaware until now, so now I'm sure I'll be in.
Sweet. Well, we appreciate you, of course, all joining us for this roundup, and of course for joining us here in a month as we just burn down Sin City at Christmas time. I am super excited for the World Poker Tour World Championships at the Wynn. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
You're
you.
watching PokerOrg. I don't know.